Hey everyone, and in this video I will be talking about and giving you some tips on how to make your iPhone videos and footage more cinematic to make it look and feel more like a movie. Let's begin. The first tip and the number one thing that you just have to do is to lock focus and exposure settings. You can do it right in the stock camera app in the iOS. On default, it's automatic, at least in the stock camera app on iPhone. If you move around, the settings change automatically based on the condition you are in. So if you go to a darker from a brighter place, then of course the focus and the exposure is going to be adjusted automatically. But that looks unprofessional when the exposure just changes based on the content of the video. On DSLRs, it's almost always manual, so it just won't happen. And that's how you can see that a video was shot on an iPhone instead of a professional camera, and we want to avoid that. So in the camera app, just tap the screen to reveal the cube. Where you tap, this is the place where the camera will focus on. Plus, you can slide up and down to adjust the exposure and just hold down to lock it. Now, if you move around, it's just gonna stay like this. So I consider this to be very professional looking, and not just me, it's just universally so considered. Yes, you'll need to change the settings in every other scene or whatever you're shooting, but this is what you have to count with. You're shooting a video, you're making it look professional, that's what you just have to do. By the way, guys, if you are new on this channel, I make videos like these. Some filmmaking tips and this kind of stuff regarding videos, plus Apple related content, iPhones, and a whole bunch of stuff. So subscribe and never miss anything important in the future. The second tip I have for you is to simply shoot at more FPS. It's pretty basic, I know, but there are some things to pay attention to. Make sure to not go with 120 or 240 FPS if you really don't need to. You know, you can access it only in the slow motion settings, so from the video you can really set it to 120 or 240 FPS, but you should mostly shoot at 60 FPS. This is probably the best option. It allows you to slow it down by half to make some shots more cinematic, so slow down. But still, if you export the final video at 24 or 25 FPS, the shots you don't slow down, even though they're shot at 60 FPS, will still look regular because you export at 25 FPS, so the frames will simply be dropped out. Yes, it takes a little bit of your storage, but I think it is worth it. You can change it right in the camera app on the newer iPhone models and in the settings of the older ones. You could as well change the settings to 24 FPS right in the camera to make it even more like the professional movie, but there is no option for you to slow it down later except for optical flow, but more on that later in the future. So pretty much just set it to 60 FPS or keep it at 24 and choose 60 when you know that you will want to slow it down. It's up to you. The third tip is to focus on the primary lens of your phone. Well, that of course depends on your device. You might be tempted to switch to wide angle or telephoto if your phone actually has that, but this type of shot definitely has its place, but it's not really suited for everything and you should not exaggerate it. You should probably mostly focus on the basic lens. This is gonna give you the most natural look, and most settings are available for the main camera lens. So some options may not be available for the wide angle or the telephoto lens. And yeah, it's just different lens, so that means that different things will apply to it. For example, on most of the wide angle lenses, if you go to a darker environment, it's just gonna start to look so grainy and it's just looking terrible. You cannot really use this type of shot, so rather just go with the basic main lens. Plus, the spherical look, it just doesn't look professional like a real movie. Like I said, some shots could be taken with this one, but not like most of them or like the entire movie even. And the fourth and final tip I have for you in this video is to simply add movement to your shots. This is it's not really so specific, but like I talked about the locking of the autofocus and the automatic exposure settings, when you do that, you can move around with the iPhone and it doesn't changes the focus. It doesn't focus on foreground objects. This is pretty cinematic, at least it's considered to look professional. So you can easily just add foreground object always. It's always a good idea when there isn't enough movement in the shot because you can easily create it with the foreground object. But if the iPhone focuses on it automatically or changes the exposure because of that, then it just becomes terrible and looks very unprofessional. So make sure to pay attention to it. But yeah, foreground objects definitely add a lot of motion and movement to your shots so it doesn't look so static all the time. So these were the tips that I wanted to give you in this video. There are definitely some others I have prepared for you. So in case you do not want to miss them later in the future, what you can do is definitely subscribe so you don't miss the next uploads. You can also support this video with your thumbs up. I would definitely appreciate it. So thanks a lot for that and for your support, and see you guys later in the next video. Peace out, guys.